When I first began playing competitive Pokémon, my biggest goal was to get good enough to publish a team report on Nugget Bridge. This was the main hub of VGC back in 2014 when I first started. But a decade later, it's long dead, and sites like Trainer Tower have since taken its place. Modern VGC isn't really my thing, but having played some retro VGC lately, I feel like I'm getting back into the swing of doubles. In this video, I'll go over the team I used in Orre Cup 8, a tournament held by the Orre Coliseum Discord, home of VGC 2005. This will be a new diary series, much like the one I'm doing for Guilty Gear Accent Core Plus R. The difference here is that I have almost 10 years of experience with competitive Pokémon. I'm not starting from ground zero like I was with Plus R, but it has been a while since I've played the VGC formats regularly, so there's still some kinks to work out. Now let's get to the team I used in my first Orre tournament. The team I used in this tournament is a scaled back version of my favorite team ever. A VGC 2015 team that basically taught me how to play competitive Pokémon at an above average level. I love that team so much that I tried to replicate it here, and that was not a good idea. What made that 2015 team work was its versatility. It had clear offensive, defensive, and mixed approaches that it could vacillate between very easily. But a lot of that came from moves, abilities, and items that didn't exist in Generation 3. Take Breloom. On the 2015 team, its frailty can be mitigated by Focus Sash. Its low-powered priority Mach Punch is boosted by its ability Technician, which also boosts its multi-hitting stab Bullet Seed. If I got into the right spot, I could just put everything to sleep with Spore. None of that is possible in Generation 3 VGC. Focus Sash wouldn't be introduced until Generation 4, which also saw Bullet Seed become a physical attack because in previous generations, all grass moves were special attacks. Breloom wouldn't get Technician to boost its Mach Punches until Generation 5, and to top it all off, VGC 2005 has Sleep Claws, meaning only one Pokémon per team can be asleep at a given time. But despite all of that, I still tried to make Breloom work. There was one game in this tournament where it really did, and like 7 where it really didn't. The only reason it was able to work for that one game was because of my Sylveon stand-in, Clefable. I'm a big fan of Clefable in this format. Fighting types aren't that prevalent, so its only weakness really isn't there. Clefable is surprisingly bulky, and the combination of Follow Me, Icy Wind, and Soft Boiled can make it surprisingly difficult to take down, especially when its partner is able to attack or set up freely. An issue I had in this tournament though, and one that's shown itself in subsequent sets I've played with Clef teams, is that I tend to move away from Clef in later matches regardless of how much it's working. This reminds me of my use of Rashosen in Guilty Gear Plus R, so great, my bad habits cross over between games and genres. Looking at the other carryover from the 2015 team, Arcanine had to be altered considerably. In 2015, it was my defensive annoyance. The combination of Intimidate, Will-O-Wisp, and Snarl could be extremely obnoxious, especially since Snarl goes through substitutes because it's a sound-based move. Well, two problems adapting this to Gen 3. Snarl didn't exist until Generation 5, and while Will-O-Wisp did, the Pokémon that could learn it were pretty restricted, with Arcanine not being able to learn it until Generation 4. In VGC 2005, Arcanine takes on a bit more of an offensive role, having the job of stopping the format's best Pokémon, Metagross. Overheat one-shots it, and White Herb restores Arcanine's special attack afterward, letting it blast off another Overheat for the same damage. When it's not doing that, Helping Hand helps to boost its teammates, and Extreme Speed is a nice closeout tool for Pokemon that my stronger options have already damaged considerably. Intimidate is still a really good ability, but I think it's less so in VGC 05 than in other formats. Metagross nullifies it with Clear Body, and the majority of big-time threats seem to be special attackers. I think a lot of this is caused by the legalization of the Lati twins. If it wasn't for them, I suspect we'd see more Salamence and fighting types like Blaziken and Heracross more often. Arcanine fared well. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. The same goes for Latios and Raikou, the team's primary offensive threats. Latios was the Salamence stand-in, because I still wanted a blue dragon, and it helps that Latios is one of the best Pokemon in the format. The choice of Helping Hand over a coverage move like Thunderbolt or a setup move like Calm Mind was because I thought I'd use it alongside Snorlax way more than I did. Latios gives Snorlax the boost with Helping Hand, and Snorlax blasts off Earthquakes that Latios is immune to thanks to Levitate. The EVs here are to always survive a Dragon Claw from max special attack Timid Latios holding Dragon Fang. The cut into its special attack still gives it a 1 in 8 chance of one-shotting opposing Latios that have no defensive investment, which seems to be most of them. I'm gonna jump to Snorlax here first, because there's not much to say. Figuring out a 6th Pokemon for this team was difficult, and I almost swapped it out for Medicham before turning in my team sheet. It did fine. It's one of the best Pokemon in the format, but it wasn't a good fit for this team as much as I would have hoped. Finishing things off is my go-to Pokemon in competitive Gen 3. In both singles and doubles, I love Raikou. It's one of those Pokemon that I didn't really like or dislike until I played competitive. Now it's one of my favorite Pokemon because it's been so consistent for me. Raikou being able to outspeed the Latis and Tauros is really helpful, and it's got enough power to stagger major threats, especially after a Helping Hand boost. Helping Hand Thunderbolt one-shots Tauros, one of the biggest offensive threats in the format. And Helping Hand Crunch seriously damages the Latis. Raikou was great for me. It hit hard and it hit fast. The problem was that this team isn't ideal for mitigating its weaknesses. What prevents Raikou from being as good as Zapdos, a top 4 Pokemon in VGC 05, is its weakness to Earthquake. In Gen 3 doubles, spread moves that target the entire field have no spread reduction, meaning they hit just as hard as they would in singles, but to both Pokemon. The biggest problem with this team was a lack of clarity. A lot of the time, I was really unsure of how to approach a match due to a couple of things. The two dogs, while powerful in their own roles, don't work perfectly together because they're both weak to Earthquake, and Raikou only speed ties with one of Arcanine's biggest threats, Starmie. They still did well when paired together, but it's not the safest option, and the infrastructure around them wasn't great at making things any safer. My delusions about Breloom are what hurt this team the most. In VGC 05, it's far from the threat it would grow into in VGC 12, 13, and 15. Here, it's a frail C-tier player too slow to work around its defensive deficiencies most of the time. I've played around with a few team ideas since then, and it's made me realize how new I am to the format, along with how long it's been since I've played VGC regularly. The last VGC format I cared about team building in was 2017. I'm still reacclimating myself to only being able to bring 4 Pokemon per battle and the dangers of doubles. There's no substitute for in-game feel. My goal with Orre is to build a team I click with like the VGC 15 team, but after only about a month with it, I really like this format. It's very interesting, and I'm excited to get more time in. If you'd like to play some VGC 2005, I've left a link to its Discord in the pinned comment, along with the question of the video. What got you into competitive Pokémon? For me, it was when X and Y came out, and I wanted to get better at beating my friends, so that's what led me to Smogon and later Nugget Bridge. I watched the 2013 Worlds replays more times than I can count, and I could probably tell you the Hayden McTavish Ben Hickey Seniors Finals move by move with pretty decent accuracy. It's been a decade of playing these games competitively, and while I've had my ups and downs, there's always been something that re-sparks my interest. This time, it's the forgotten VGC prototype, and I am having a blast. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, there should be 2 videos on screen right now, along with a button in the middle of the screen that you can click to subscribe to the channel. Anyways, peace.